Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one, and welcome to another episode of Mingles with Jingles. Once again, it's been a fairly quiet news week on the gaming front. Well, I mean it hasn't, but it's been a fairly quiet news week on the gaming front as far as games that I actually care about are concerned. Big news, of course, Atomic Heart is out, don't care. Sons of the Forest is out, don't care. Company of Heroes 3 is out, don't actually really care that much. But while I was browsing the PC Gamer News website, I noticed something to do with pricing. Now, this is GPU pricing. Bear with me, okay? Because we're going to go somewhere with this. And it's not actually games related, but it's to do with pricing in general. So it probably hasn't escaped your attention, particularly if you've been looking at buying yourself a new PC or just upgrading some of the components in your PC in the last 3 years or so. That prices have been fluctuating dramatically, specifically with regard to GPUs. Now, of course, there was the whole disaster a couple of years back with the launch of NVIDIA's 3000 series GPUs, when they were just totally incapable of supplying enough new GPUs to meet the demand, and while the prices were already kind of ridiculous, nobody could actually buy them anywhere even close to the manufacturer's recommended price point, because scalpers were just buying them all at the second they were available for purchase and then sticking them on eBay for 4 times the original price. So people were having to pay $2,000, $2,500, $3,000 for GPUs that were supposed to retail at around about the $800 mark. Well, over a year or so, eventually that stabilized. And lately, it has now been possible to buy a GPU at something approximating what the manufacturer expects you to pay for it. The problem is that what the manufacturer expects you to pay for a GPU for a PC these days has doubled since 2020. So we've gone from a situation a couple of years ago when the 3000 series GPUs were released where there was just no stock. There were none on shelves, and the only way to get one was to pay an exorbitant price on eBay, to a situation now where you can actually now get them for the manufacturer's recommended price, but nobody's buying them because the manufacturer's recommended price is ridiculous and twice what it was just a couple of years ago. I mean, retailers now have these things in stock and they're just sitting on shelves unsold. And it's just GPUs. I mean, a couple of years ago, you would pay a couple of $100 for a high refresh rate HD monitor. But these days you can get a high refresh HD monitor, like, I don't know, 144 hertz refresh rate, capable of at least 2K resolution, for $150, which is the price an average monitor has always cost. It's just that the average is now better than what it was a couple of years ago. A couple of years ago, you'd probably pay $150 for a decent 1080p monitor. These days, you'll pay $150 for a decent 144 Hz refresh rate, HD, possibly even 4K monitor. The price has always tended to remain the same, it's just the specification that's increased over the years. And it's the same with CPUs. The average price for most CPUs, even though CPUs are getting better, has remained the same. This has always really been the case. I mean, when I bought my first PC, can't even remember when this was, it would have been the 90s. The only reason I bought a PC in the first place, because I used to play exclusively on the Commodore Amiga, but the only reason I bought a PC was because LucasArts Games, well, I think at the time they were called Lucasfilm Games, had announced the X-Wing flight simulator, and it was supposed to be coming out on the Commodore Amiga, and then close to the release they said, actually no, it's going to be PC only. So I said, screw this, and bought a PC just to play X-Wing, and I've been a PC gamer ever since. But every time I upgraded and bought a new PC, it always cost around about £1,000. You know, to get a decent PC, regardless of the specification, at the time, you would pay about £1,000. First PC was a 486DX. It cost about £1,000. And then after a couple of years, I upgraded, and I think it was a Pentium. So obviously a better PC, but still costs around about £1,000. And that sort of pricing policy, maybe that's not the right way to describe it, but that kind of price point was the average. You buy a new PC with a decent to good specification, it's going to cost you about £1,000. These days, the graphics card alone, it's going to cost you about £1,000. It's just ridiculous. But it's just the graphics cards. And yet, despite the pricing, which has doubled since 2020, apparently industry-wide profits for graphics card manufacturers are down something like 40%, although Nvidia, which has the lion's share of the market, their profits are only down by about 21%. Possibly because people are getting fed up with paying exorbitant prices for one of the central components of their PCs, and they're realising, well, actually, I don't need the latest all-singing, all-dancing ray tracing for the games that I play. Amusingly enough, and a bit of a side note here, because I was talking earlier about how it's been a quiet games news week, but, you know, games like Atomic Heart are out. And a game like Atomic Heart, which featured heavily in Nvidia's own propaganda for the ray tracing capabilities of their latest generation of graphics cards, turns out that Atomic Heart has shipped without ray tracing support. So you don't even need one of the latest all-singing, all-dancing, ray tracing capable graphics cards to enjoy one of the games that Nvidia was using to advertise its latest series of all-singing, all-dancing, ray tracing graphics cards. And I think that's hilarious. But anyway, getting back to the subject. Because I did mention that this was going somewhere that wasn't specifically gaming related. And it is to do with weird and completely unexplainable price hikes on the strangest of things. I mean, okay, maybe graphics cards costing twice what they used to isn't completely unexplainable, but certain other things definitely are. So, I'm sure many of you are probably aware that I don't want to say own, nobody owns cats. Cats own you, but I have to care and pay for two cats, Akazuki and Juzi. So, Akazuki's a pedigree Maine Coon, and Juzi is a chonky, lovable ginger tabby. I call her my honky-tonk badonka-chonk, and she's getting quite badonka-chonk. If you leave her alone with unrestricted access to whatever food is available, she will just eat it all, including all of Akazuki's food. So I have to come up with a way of ensuring that Akazuki can only eat her food, and Juzi, who's on a special diet control, only gets access to her food, because she is a honky-tonk badonka-chonk, and I don't want her getting even more badonka-chonk and ending up with diabetes and all kinds of health-related problems because she's too fat. So in order to control her diet, and also because Akazuki's a very young cat and Juzi's getting on a bit, so, you know, they would require different diets anyway. So I needed a way of ensuring that Juzi would only have access to the diet that was specific for her, and likewise with Akazuki. And one way to do that, in fact, I think the only real practical way to do that, is a microchip pet feeder. So obviously your cats are microchipped, so if they go missing, somebody can just scan the chip and name and address details of the owner are encoded on the chip. But that chip, which is basically just a tiny little RFID chip embedded in their necks, can also be used to identify which cat is trying to get into the pet feeder, and it will only open for the correct cat. So fantastic. Plus then Rita moved back in, and her little cat Chris has health issues and requires a specific medicated diet as well. So we needed a third microchip pet feeder to ensure that the other two cats, and when I say the other two cats, I mean Juzi, because she'll eat anything that's available, we needed to make sure that Juzi wasn't stealing Chris's medicated food. So we needed another one of these microchip pet feeders. So I went on to Amazon, because that's where I got the first two. And when I got the first two, and these things are not cheap, by the way. I mean, you're talking about what is basically a food bowl, and they're very expensive food bowls. When I got the first two, they were £70 each. Yeah, that's a lot of money for a cat food bowl. But I didn't really have much of a choice. It's the only practical way of ensuring that each cat gets its own specific diet. So, fair enough. We now need another one for Crystalline. So I went onto Amazon, and just to ensure that I was getting the same product I searched through my order history, and yep, there it is. You previously ordered this item on blah de blah de blah. It cost you £70. Yeah, that's it. Click. Guess how much they want now? £140 for a feeding bowl. I thought, what? I mean, seriously? It turns out that's actually quite a good deal. No, I have not suddenly taken leave of my senses, although it's pretty clear that somebody has, but by recent standards, paying £140 for a microchip pet food bowl is actually a really good deal. Because I saw the price, screw this. Searched for alternatives, there were none. Trying to find somebody else selling the same thing cheaper. Nobody was. Amazon actually had the best price. Yes, £140. So I did some digging and I had a look at Amazon price tracking history. It turned out that a couple of months previously, I'm not making this up, here's the graph showing the price fluctuations. Just a couple of weeks previously, the price had been as high as £261 for a food bowl. The actual list price on Amazon is still expensive, but it's remained at around about the £70 price point. It's just that Amazon haven't had them in stock. So the third-party sellers on Amazon who do have them in stock have basically been charging whatever the hell they like. So we thought, you know what? Yeah, let's not bother. Instead, when it's feeding time for Crystalline, Rita just feeds her in her room and shuts the door. So Juicy can't get in, which seems like a far more sensible option. But I thought, well, okay, I mean, that's just an absolutely ridiculous price, but you can kind of see why, because Amazon didn't have them in stock, so it was just the third-party sellers who saw the opportunity to scalp the shit out of anybody who needed one of these microchip pet feeders. Fair enough. I mean, it's shit, but it makes sense. You know, there's nothing outrageous about it other than the price they're asking. It's basically the same situation as when Nvidia announced the release of their 3000 series graphics cards a couple of years ago, except there wasn't enough supply, and so the only people who could get them were the scalpers, who immediately relisted them for quadruple the asking price on eBay. We'll call this an outlier, right? This surely isn't going to be the standard where pet supplies are concerned. Oh dear. So anyway, a couple of weeks back, Alexa informed me that it might be time to consider reordering? Wow, English is hard. Reordering my cat litter. So again, because I never do things the easy way, well, mostly because there's just something about the smell of dirty cat litter that makes me gag. All right, and changing a cat litter every day, you kind of have to, though, except you don't, because I've got this automatic cat litter as well. I've actually got two of them, one upstairs, one downstairs. So this thing is great, and it's from, I think it's from the same company that do the automatic pet feeders. But anyway, basically, you put the litter tray in the bottom of the machine, and it's got like a rake. So when the cat uses the litter, there's a motion sensor, and a few minutes after the cat leaves the litter tray, the rake scoops any poop into a bin at the front and then moves back and re-smooths out all of the cat litter. It's fantastic. And depending on how many cats you have and how many of these litter trays you have, you don't have to change the litter for anything up to 4 weeks. So it's fantastic. Again, they're not cheap, but for convenience, I absolutely had to get them. So when I order the cat litter crystals, they come in batches of 3, and I've got 2 of these cat litter trays. So, you know, that's good enough for 1 month, but then when I come to change the litter the next month, I'm going to be 1 short, so I have to reorder again the next month. But then I'll have 4, which will be good for 2 months. So 2 months had gone by since I'd last reordered my cat litter, actual litter crystals. So I went to Amazon. And again, you know, these things are not the cheapest. You would pay, and bearing in mind that you're getting like a month and a half's worth of cat litter, you'd pay about £50, which isn't too bad. I mean, unless you're using wood chip cat litter, which is cheap as chips. But for regular, you know, cat litter. A month and a half supply, that's not that expensive. So I went to reorder. £84. They suddenly wanted £84 for the thing that had cost me £54 2 months ago. What the hell? So again, I went to check the price history. Get a load of this. It turns out that if Alexa had notified me that I needed to reorder just 1 week earlier, I would have only paid £50, but suddenly £84. And this time, Amazon doesn't even have the excuse of not having them in stock. That's the Amazon price. And the Amazon price is actually cheaper than buying it directly from the manufacturer. What the hell is going on? So I thought, is this just a pet supply thing? I mean, is there some kind of weird global shortage in pet supplies all of a sudden that nobody told me about? So I went to investigate the price history of the actual litter tray box itself. Remember the whole automatic rake, scoop, bin at the front thing that I was putting these litter crystals into? Now, when I bought mine, I can't remember the exact price. But again, you know, they're not cheap. You're paying for convenience here. But it wasn't that expensive. I think I paid around about the £150 mark. So when I had a look at the price tracking history, at one point you can actually get these things as cheap as £106. I mean, that's still expensive for a cat litter tray, but for a fully automatic, all singing, all dancing cat litter tray, that's not bad. The current price on Amazon is £228, which is down from an all-time high just last month of £360 for a cat litter. What the actual fuck is going on? Now, bear in mind, I didn't and would never pay that price for them. But what this means, and don't forget I've got 2 of these things, right? One upstairs, one downstairs. That means I am now the proud owner of 2 cat litters with the associated litter crystals, both of which, when combined, actually cost more than the already outrageous asking price for a current generation NVIDIA graphics card for your PC. What a time to be alive. The world's gone mad. Mad, I tell you. I mean, I love my cats, but I don't love them that much. I don't think anybody loves their cats that much. So, yeah, the girls might have to suffer some reductions in the quality of their eating and pooping services over the coming months, because if these prices stay at their current levels, I mean, holy shit, what's going on? And it's just pet supplies. That's what doesn't make any sense. Well, pet supplies and graphics cards, but they don't really care about the quality of the graphics card in my PC, so it's just pet supplies. Or at least it is, as far as I've been able to tell. I mean, I haven't done an exhaustive, in-depth analysis of the price fluctuations in other common household goods. Actually, that's a good point. Let me know in the comments if you've suddenly noticed some absolutely ridiculous and completely unexplainable price hikes in things that you used to buy on a regular monthly basis, but are now having to figure out whether or not you can afford to go without. So, yeah, over to you in the comments. And on that bombshell, that's it for this week's episode of Mingles with Jingles. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope it's given you something to think about and possibly talk about. And as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.